Okay. Good morning, class.
Good morning, Mr. Litton.
It's definitely not morning. So today we're going to be looking at our piece, Ancient Voices, but we're not quite ready to look at it just yet. We've got just a few things to do. So my intended warm-up was a B-flat concert scale, and that's still what we're going to do. So I would ask all the sections, what is your note for a B-flat concert? What would you start on? A B-flat concert. Percussionist? Yes. Great. But if you were playing a xylophone, what note would you start on?
B-flat.
B-flat, awesome. And Matt?
E-flat. G.
Yes. Yes, good. Way to figure it out. Okay, so we actually are still going to do that, but the percussionist, I want snare drummer, I want you to keep eights. I want you to keep eighth notes, and Malcolm, I want you just to play on the quarter notes, but just keep the drum ringing. Just keep hitting it and let it ring. And then Matt, I want you to play quarter notes as well, so you'll be right with the bass drum. Okay, so we're going to go through it about this tempo right here. Okay, I'm going to give you 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wonderful. That sounded awesome. Make sure that you keep remember your key signature.
Yeah.
No problem, just that F sharp. Yeah. Okay, so for the next thing in the lesson, it's going to be something that we're focusing on today. As well, it doesn't have anything to do with the piece specifically, but it's just really important in general, and that is posture and embouchure. So for percussionists, embouchure is a little bit different because you use your hands, but you're going to want to keep your technique in mind. So making sure that you hold all the all the mallets you hold pretty much the same except for the bass drum, which you just hold. Yes, great technique. Okay, so I want everybody to look at me sitting in this chair, and I'm going to ask you guys to fix my posture for me. So I'm going to sit down, and I would like for someone to give me a little tip on what I should do with my posture. Yes, Matt?
Do not slouch.
Okay, don't slouch. So how do I fix that if I'm like slouching right now?
Sit tall.
Sit tall, okay. All right. Okay, so I'm sitting tall. A little taller, you think? Any other tips? Malcolm?
Needs to be more to the front of the chamber.
Okay, yeah. That's a good one. So get my butt slip. Don't lean up against the back, yeah?
My mom calls that man-spreading.
Man-spreading, okay, yeah. So my legs are really far apart. Like,
I'm sitting like there.
yeah, I'm sitting like so bring my legs in, right, yeah, my feet straight. So I'd say this is pretty good. What do you think? Do you think this looks pretty good right here?
I think it looks
It's a side view. Yeah, so we want to be thinking about this while we're playing through the piece. And as well, for percussionists, you guys make sure that your posture is a little easier usually for standing up. There's not much else to do. But make sure that you're keeping your hand position in mind, and also where you're striking the drum is also very important. So for snare drummers, relatively in the center, yes, that's a good place to strike the drum, yes. Where the head is messed up is probably where you should hit it. And for the bass drum, not in the middle, but a little bit below the middle. Yeah, right about there. That's where you're going to want to strike the drum to get it to resonate the most. And Matt, your embouchure is, of course, keep your lip rolled over your bottom teeth and your teeth on the top, and pretty much that's it. That's a good embouchure. Okay, so now that we have done that, I want you guys to look at your scores. We're not going to play quite yet, but I want you to look at the first 6, well, let's say the first 4 measures.
Okay.
So, Matt, what does your part look like?
Blow air through instrument while rapidly fingering random pitches.
Yes, wonderful. So I think you probably understand.
Oh, no, that was wrong.
just a little softer.
Yeah.
Actually, this makes me think of a good point. When you're doing something like this, in all honesty, the embouchure isn't necessarily that important. And in fact, having an improper embouchure might help you blow through the instrument a little better. Yeah, kind of like that. But you're going to want to remember when you play to bring it back, of course. But and for the percussionists, they can't blow air and rapidly finger pitches. They could make wind noises, yes, but in the score, you guys actually have a part. So, Malcolm, I'm going to ask you a question. If you know, for the bass drum, you actually play it on the downbeat. Yes. Do you know what exactly it's telling you to do there? Because I know we might not have
A bass drum roll?
discussed it. Yes. So there is another mallet back there, and usually you would do it with a matching mallet, but yeah. So you're just gonna roll on. You want your hands on opposite sides of the drum. Yep. Yeah, just like that. That'll be perfect. And it doesn't get very loud. Yeah. It stays right back there. Oh yes, the castanets have a roll too. If you would like to play. Okay. And then you've also got some rim hits in the second measure. And then after that, you guys play regularly. So that'll be awesome. So we're actually gonna go look at these first four measures, just play through them, especially so the wind instruments can hear, the general feel of what the percussion's gonna sound like. What?
Instrument.
Yeah, instrument. All right, so I'm gonna give you guys a slower form, much slower than the warm-ups, because the marking's 76. So we're gonna take it about right here. 3, 4. Okay, but during this whole time, I want you guys to focus on hand position as well as embouchure and posture. Make sure that that's always in your mind. Okay, so. Oh, and another important thing. Actually, you know what? We'll get to that after this. So I'm gonna give you guys 4, and then we'll start. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. All right. That sounded pretty good. All right. Cut off. Thank you. But that sounded great. You guys actually did a great job covering all the parts. And Matt, of course, your wind blowing was really great.
I feel like you can't hear it.
Oh, you can hear it. But also, when everyone else is here, it'll be a lot.
Why are they all
a lot louder? I don't know. I guess it must be a disease going around. But okay, so now let's see. So I want you guys to look at your parts and look specifically at the dynamics. Do you notice anything interesting about the dynamics, or what do you notice?
Are they in the first 4 measures?
Yeah, or between measures 1 and 13. That's the range of what we're looking at today. 1 and 13.
I see a bunch of get louder and get softer.
Mm-hmm. So crescendos and decrescendos. Yeah, exactly. And that's going to be while you're blowing air.
Uh-huh.
So you just want to be careful not to squeak. Although it'll probably happen and that'll be fine. But yeah, so that's good. There is some, you get louder the first measure and then softer, and it does that for 6 measures in total, louder and softer. What about the percussionists? What do you guys notice?
We're soft at the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
get a little louder in the second, and get loud at the third.
Yeah.
We start accented and
Yeah.
then we lay off the accents. They stop before 9. Our accents stop.
Yeah. So yeah, your accents in my score, they stop at measure 6 on the 3rd beat, and Malcolm also stops playing. So, but then you come back in just a moment. But so that's pretty interesting. So just by looking at your parts, do you guys think that your part is pretty important? Do you think that your part's pretty important? What about you, Matt?
The beginning?
Yeah, well, more like when you start playing notes.
I mean,
How important do you think your part might be?
like a 6 out of 10.
A 6 out of 10? Okay. All right. So I'm going to actually play a recording of the piece so we can hear it and we can notice which parts are more important and which parts might have louder or varying dynamics. Thank you for playing that.
You want me to start it?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Okay. Sweet. Okay, so right about there is where we're going to stop, but I have to get this recorder as well. So, just by listening to the piece, that's about as far as we're going to look at it today. What do you guys notice? What do you guys notice? Just anything, really.
It sounds like it's the whole band is playing a scale, but starting in different spots.
Yeah, so a lot of the that's a really great thing to say. You're right. You mean for the clarinets and the saxes, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and that's supposed to help evoke the feel of like it's supposed to be ancient. Like we're supposed to be like ancient warriors or maybe like a tribe of people or something. It's supposed to evoke that type of scene. But really, what I wanted to ask you guys is, what parts did you hear the most? What parts do you think were the loudest? Which one had the loudest dynamics?
Percussion.
Percussion. Yeah.
Beginning.
In the beginning, percussion does have the loudest dynamics. They are probably the part that everyone's going to be listening to.
And then the flute.
And now that's a great answer. So the flute, yeah, whenever the flute comes in, the flutes come in at measure 9. And at measure 9, the flutes are marked mezzo forte. And everyone else is marked, well, actually, percussion is also marked mezzo forte. But you guys don't.
Sound like it though. We sounded very soft.
Yeah,
It sounded like
exactly.
there was only one snare drummer playing, and they didn't sound like they were playing very loud.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's because the flute part is the main part right there. That's the melody. That's what everyone wants to hear. It like that's the main part. And of course, the flutes would play it if they were here. But since I'm here, they're diseased. Yes. So, but yeah, and that's what I want you guys to see is that dynamics are usually related specifically to the melody sometimes. But also, let's see. Yeah, there aren't really too many crescendos after that. But there is a decrescendo for the saxes. But really, it's just important to know that everyone's part is important at different times. It's just like at the beginning, like Dr. Soja said, the percussionists are loud. They have a really important part. And whenever the saxes and the clarinets come in measure 6, you guys have the important part right there. That's the part that everyone's going to hear. And the percussionists come down a little bit so that you can be heard. But whenever the flutes come in, everyone needs to make sure that you're not playing louder than the flutes, because their part is the important part. Okay, so we're going to look, I think we're going to start in measure 5 to give Nat just a little bit of time to come in. But, and so you guys will, just the percussionists will be coming in on measure 2. And I'm going to play along with the flute cues. So hopefully, I'll make sure to tap my foot to keep time, but I'm going to play the flute cues, so that way you can hear the part, and when the flutes are here, they'll play. So yeah, but I want you guys to make sure you're still focusing on embouchure and P and E, as I called it in my lesson plan. So posture and embouchure, P and E. Alrighty, so
Measure 5.
yes, measure 5. Thanks. All right, I'm gonna give you guys 4. 3, and then we're gonna come in on 5. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that sounded pretty good. we might look at that at least one more time. But okay, so you guys can hear how I think Dr. Soja, I think you're playing the dynamics very well for the snare drum. It's definitely loud enough to hear, but not quite too loud. And Matt, I know that it's sort of low in the horn, but if there's any way that you could try to play it just a little quieter, and that doesn't mean that your part isn't important. In fact, you playing it quieter will make the whole thing sound a lot more interesting to the audience. So a good way to help do that on saxophone is to keep your air supported, of course, and keep blowing air that's fast, but just try to sort of think about it spinning from the back of your mouth instead of the front. Hopefully you can understand what I mean. But think about keeping your mouth open and keeping an awe shape inside. But for a percussionist, you guys are doing great. So. Yeah, let's start at measure 5 again, and just keep all those things in mind. All right, I'm gonna give you guys 4 to come in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, well, that sounds a lot better. I think that the dynamics, they sound pretty great. And so the next thing that we'll work on in the next class will be the singing. So that will be a lot of fun for us to sing in band. So I think you guys did a great job with all that. So, alrighty.
I don't know if you noticed.
You what?
I was back kissing on anything the entire time.
That's okay. I'd probably do that.